Welcome to Formula E in UR2D. This is the Formula E 14-15 League. We're here for round 3 at the Punta del Este street circuit in Uruguay. We have 6 drivers in our first group. Juan, Pumpkin, Urist, Trixie, Corvid and Goose. Should be a very entertaining qualifying session. The way that the qualifying session works is you get 3 laps to set your time, and the groups are split into Group A and Group B. Randomly, completely, as Juan hits the wall very hard there. Quite unfortunate for the Belgian driver. Scores on the doors as they come to complete the first laps of qualifying. It is as they complete them, Corvid and Pumpkin provisionally going through to Superpole. Urist and then Goose, Trixie and Juan 5th and 6th in the timesheets at the moment. They're going to look to jump up at the end. Trixie standing in for the Mahindra team, who are without either main driver today. Goose also in for Mahindra as an emergency reserve. Finishing off lap 2 here. Any improvements from the drivers? Looks like none at all, actually.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, no. There we go. Juan jumps up to 3rd position. Eurus clearly not happy with his lap. Matty has joined. He will be slotted into Group 2, or Group B, rather. And that means that Goose will change to a different team come the race as well, but that's no issue. So Juan puts in a competitive time, but it's still a good few tenths, about 0.7 off that going through group. Can he improve any further? He does! And he knocks Pumpkin out. There you go then, folks. That is it. Corvid tops Group A by over a second. Brilliant performance from the Andretti driver. Juan Dawn on his final lap improves to be 400ths ahead of Pumpkin in the Trulli, who from lap 1 looked really good to go through to Superpole, but will not be making the journey. He'll start on row 3 of the grid. Urist will start on row 4, ahead of Trixie and then Goose. We're back for Group B. I'm joined now by Nuno. Hello, Nuno.
Right.
So we have Group B. We have 2 people who've joined in, Matty and Noms. So this group is 1 driver larger than Group A. Should be a little bit more difficult for these drivers to get through, but no, I stole these words this week. Our current championship leader, a DNS here in Punta del Este, so that should make things a little more interesting. Nomskar, a driver we know well, but what do you expect from him coming over to this series? He can do it in open wheelers, in normal combustion engines. What do you think he'll do in Formula E?
I don't know, I guess it really depends how comfortable Noms he is with these cars. If he hasn't practiced that much, they're not really expecting much. Because it is a high skilled car, it's a very specific setting, also the space itself, and also the fact that Noms plays without any sound, which is, I think, very crucial for cars with such low acceleration. I think that might really make things difficult for him. So I think, yeah, I can see here Kraft leading with Letzi up there, so not really that surprising. Letzi did pretty well in the first race I saw in Beijing, so yeah.
Yes, he came P4 there, and then he was P3 last week, racing for the Trulli team. He's in the Virgin team car finally now, and it is a Virgin 1-2. No star driver, no problem for the Virgin team. Let's see if they can finish off a very strong qualifying group. Kraft goes top, Guetzi second as it stands. Can anyone pip him? Yes, Gorlomi can! It will be Trulli going through to Superpole in the hands of Gorlomi. Pumpkin suffered heartbreak earlier on, but his teammate makes up for it. Kraft tops the group, and Guetzli right at the end misses out by 700ths of a second and will not go to Superpole. The rest of the order is as follows. Vinci starts on row 4. He's ahead of Red Lobster. Both of them make their debut in the league today. Full-time signed drivers, but not being able to race until this round. Matty Mole start on row 6, and Nomskar set to start last, but was quite close to the pack there. Not an uncompetitive time. Welcome to Superpole. 2 laps stand between these drivers and the 3 points for pole position. We're underway for the Superpole race at Punta del Este. Kraft gets a slightly slower start. Corvid is going to be right on him as they head through the first couple of chicanes. It's, of course, a ghosted race. These drivers will not be making contact with each other. They simply have to set 2 laps as quickly as they possibly can. Those 2 laps added together will be their final
Ooh.
time. They will be judged on that. Juan is dropping back already. Corvid is in the lead of the race. The positions have changed. No Super Pole race has seen a position change from their grid order for Super Pole, which was decided based off their raw qualifying times so far. But it looks like Kraft has fumbled his lead here. He did outqualify Corvid in timing by a couple of tenths as we get a little bit of lag. Gorlomi, though, now very much his battle. They're going to have this fight over second and third on the grid. Juan is nowhere to be seen, and Corvid has cleared off out in front. It's 3 points for Corvid and Andretti, and pole position for the Australian driver. Great effort from him. Juan ambles home across the line at the end of the session. There you go. Corvid also setting the fastest lap, somewhat unsurprisingly, in the session. It's going to be Kraft who starts alongside me on the front row, then Gorlomi, and then Juan will start fourth. Here we go. 28 laps ahead of us here in Uruguay. We're underway for the Punta del Este ePrix. Immediately off the grid, Gorlomi alongside Juan. Juan gets himself into third position. Guetzi dropping back. Vinci side by side with Eurus as they head straight through the runoff. Vinci he goes to the outside at the double right-hander. It's Matty and Trixie there. Goose is well off the back of the field. Up front, Kraft takes the lead of the race off Corvid. The pole sitter is now down into P2. Might just end lap 1 there. Juan hits the wall but gets carried through by Gorlomi. Others behind Vinci and Lobster going cleanly side by side through that section. Juan slowed down. Go on, Nuno.
Yeah, he had to run top that wall there and he got passed by Pumpkin and Glitch in the process. Now you see Pumpkin also with a mistake, now causing a bit of a pilot there.
Yeah, it's a big pack going through here. Lobster and Matty right behind, but there's 5 cars of Pumpkin, Guetzi, Juan Dawn, Vinci, and Eurus. Matty looking to get involved, but he gets slowed up. That slows down Red, Lobster, and Juan for the 3rd time in 2 laps, really. Slams into the wall. Nomscar and Trixie behind, also really going at it into the final couple of corners. They get through. They're just about squeaking through. Starting to spread out a little bit. Corvid did take that race lead back off Kraft. Kraft now down into 2nd place. It will have to be one on strategy, or if he can put in some good laps here. We've seen the front 3 really stick in formation in previous races. Great battles for the podium for P2, particularly in Beijing, our first ever race between Kraft and Corvid. But it was just always about a second or so between the drivers. Corvid, though, putting in some good lap times. He was on the last lap 5 tenths faster than Kraft. Gorlomi also dropping back. Juan, due to his early collisions, has been dropped downwards. He started 4th, made his way up to 3rd. He's now in 7th. Vinci teleports. Is ghosted as a result of that. It's good to see that that system works. Pumpkin really holding this pack up. I think he made a mistake and Juan gets really bogged down in that. He'll be irritated, won't he? Because he's made a lot of those errors so far early on in this race. And that one wasn't his fault. Nomskar in 11th place. He started down in last. He's now ahead of the dynamic duo of Trixie and Goose, but the closest fought battle, no doubt, over that 5th position. It's Vinci at the moment, Pumpkin and Juan Dawn just a little bit behind these drivers, down a couple of spots from where they started. Juan particularly down 3. Eurus hanging in there, Matty, Lobster, then Noms. Higher up, I think Juan might have been slightly forced wide there by Pumpkin. Whatever it is, he's getting quite close to the back of him once again. He might have a go into the latter half of the lap. Vinci running in a solid 5th place in his first race for his Audi team. Guetzi runs 4th in his first race for Virgin. Gorlomi 3rd. Kraft has closed in on Corvid. We might be in for a treat here. We're expecting the pit stops around lap 14 because that is the halfway point in this race. The drivers, as was customary in Gen 1 of Formula E, roll into the pit lane. The stops take about a lap's worth of time and they have to change their cars over completely to one with a new fresh battery. Goose looks to have gone the wrong way at that final corner. He's moving backwards into pit lane. He might just be retiring from this race, Nuno.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah,
A shame for him, the Andretti team as well. Andries, unfortunately, it's a really good lap time in time trial, but it won't count for anything because you do have to come to the race as well to pick up those points, not just set it on the score sheets. Vincey and Pumpkin side by side, they go through these chicanes. Vincey mows across there. Pumpkin showed him the door a little bit, but he's still going to try and craft a move. He has some slight jumping issues going around here, but he's right basically on the back of Pumpkin, just has his nose stuck in there at all times. Side by side go Matty and Lobster through this section, the Pole and the Turk, and they do emerge cleanly. Matty with a really good exit through the final corner, and he goes through the first chicane ahead, not for much longer. Lobster looks to put a move on there, does squeeze Matty a little bit there, but I think he had the right to a bit of space on that outside. Urus and Noms, the two Portuguese drivers, side by side they go. They're going to be right behind Matima. We'll go now back to that fight for the lead of the race. It hasn't switched positions just yet. This could be all important as we come to the pit stop phase. An undercut is enormous in these cars, but it does mean you put yourself at, well, 14 or thereabouts laps of having slower tyres, slower acceleration, and you will suffer as a result of that. Gorlomi in a league of his own. Guetzi and Vinci, Pumpkin. Great action here, still between Lobster and Matty. They're going side by side through these sections. They do get out through it. Matty ahead of Lobster. Noms is now ahead of Urus. Trixie there being lapped by our front runners. Goose retired, but his teammate Corvid out in the lead.
Lobster with a crash.
Lobster with an incident there. Yes, he's dropped back considerably from Matimar. That's unfortunate for the Turkish racer running on course for 2 points. Urist is in. He's in early. I think he's out as well.
He's in, I think, yeah. He's out, actually.
Our two emergency reserves, well, two of our emergency reserves, not enjoying this race massively. Our front runners, though, still very much locked in this tight battle up ahead. Kraft has dropped back that little bit. Pumpkin going really close, side by side with Vinci. He goes. Vinci jumping around still a little bit, unfortunately, for the Audi driver, but he's going to go just to the outside. Drops back slightly from Pumpkin. We're now approaching that pit stop territory. Lap 13 of 28. This is where you can pull that undercut. How much would you estimate that undercut could mean in terms of lap time, Nuno?
Yeah, it could certainly be quite big, to be honest, but then you just sort of lose to the entire next thing, and yeah,
Oh,
pretty much. I don't know exactly the difference between the fast laps and the slower laps. I don't know what's. Oh my god, the entire thing was just
yes.
stopped.
We had a bit of lag there, but I think in that we've seen Lobster, who got irritated with a collision with Juan, I believe it was. I think maybe what would have happened there is Juan's gone into pit and Lobster got dragged in with him. Neither Kraft nor Corvid came in on lap 13. Juan came in. Lobster maybe against his will. Kraft pits. This is the undercut for the
Ooh.
Finn. Behind Vinci, pitting on his 13th lap, is a lap down there. I mean, he's not quite as far back as that may suggest. It's the intense slow speeds of the pit lane. Trixie is yet to pit. Juan and Vinci both pitted on lap 13. Kraft has now finally emerged from pit exit. He's in third place behind his teammate Guetzley. Guetzley and Corvid extending a lap further. Still got Goose facing the wrong way at the pit entry. That means that our finishers will score points if they make it to the end of the race. Corvid in pit lane at the moment. We're going to have to keep an eye on Kraft and Guetzley. Guetzley, I mean, if he was playing a real team game there, might have actually opted to extend a lap further and try and hold up Corvid. As it is, Kraft comes out and he's still not quite with Corvid. We've got some bad old lag going on at the moment. I hope that does resolve itself soon. It looks to be okay now. Maybe issues with the server. But Kraft actually no closer than he was before that pit stop phase. Would it be different maybe? As we see, Noms has gone very close to Gorlomi, but he's still not pitted just yet. So he is battling, not really for position there. Lobster and Urist out, so Noms is our last driver not to have come in for new tyres. Is he going to extend it a lap further? No, he's going to come in here on the 16th lap of the race, and he will lose position down to Guetzley. And then a gap back to Pumpkin as well. Noms in that Renault Edams car coming in quite late on, but that will give him good pace for the second half of this race. I fear to think what would happen if you missed your pit box there. It seems quite painful. He'll come out indeed. Corvid going through there. Matty just ahead of Noms. Noms ahead of his teammate Juan. The overcut worked for him over his teammate. Juan pitted 3 laps earlier. So a pretty big difference you can see there in the tyres between the two Renault Edams drivers. Corvid leading the race is a lap up, but still not too far clear of Kraft. If he can put
Oh,
in,
Mati with a mistake.
what's
Noms
that?
could go around the outside. Oh, what an overtake there. I just saw Mati, I think, hitting the wall. Then Noms just went for a move on the outside, and it worked pretty well on the final turn.
Brilliant from Nomsky. Gets through into 7th place now. He puts one car between himself and his teammate. We've still got Trixie, the other Mahindra, in this double Renault, double Mahindra, lower order of the points. Vinci is ahead of them, still jumping around that bit. Pumpkin in no man's land. A lot of these drivers pretty spaced out from the rest of their competition. Kraft is still lapping. I think that little bit slower. He was 7/10 slower on that last lap. That might be a result of fresher tyres for Corvid, a faster car as we go towards the end of this race. He can go more aggressive, getting some faster times with a shorter stint. But yeah, that seems to be Kraft falling away from that fight. Matimar, all the while, is still in that Renault sandwich. He might try and get his own back on Noms, but Noms' tyres are nothing to be laughed at. He could go on and grab 6th here. I think 5th would be quite a stretch with how far up the road Pumpkin is, but Vinci only a couple seconds ahead of the Portuguese driver as we see Kraft just fall a little bit further back from Corvid still. This may be the first non-virgin win in this league, the first time a non-virgin car has topped any real session in this league. It's been, I stole these words, absolutely dominant. Vinci is going slowly up this main straight. He will be a challenge to overtake, no doubt. But Nomskar does have about 8 laps in store to use that advantage of the overcut and get through on the Italian driver. A little bit behind. Just behind him, Matty's still closing in. Juan also still very much in it. Trixie has dropped back, but it's a big tussle from positions 6 down to 9. Definitely a lot on the table, a lot to be won. Nuno, your thoughts on the race so far?
Yeah, so far good race from Corvid. Kraft tried that undercut, but just didn't work. And interesting to see Noms really extending those tires for a bit. But now he has Matimer right all over the back of him. But Noms still also has a chance of catching VC. So I think this is where the most interesting battle is between these three drivers for P6.
You do wonder, and I know it's probably not the first thing going through his mind, but Gwetzley does have a really nice gap behind. Kraft had a pretty
Ooh,
slow
VC with a
exit there.
mistake now.
Yeah, Vinci with a mistake. Matty going for the move here. Round the outside of turns 1 and 2. Can't get it done. Vinci is just jumping around a little bit there, and that's making it difficult for him to be overtaken. Is Matty going to send it? He does. Up the inside of the double left-hander. He gives Vinci no choice and says, this position is mine. But the Audi driver fights back through the sweeping right kinked right-hander of that next turn. Vinci goes through and Matty bites a bit of dust there. Vinci, though, slows, and Matty will give another opportunity at getting him. Nomskar through on Vinci. Matty, not quite so lucky. Kraft has really slowed down. I think he hit the final corner, because I did see him get a very slow exit out there, and his gap to Corvid correspondingly has dropped, has increased by about 3 or 4 seconds. It wouldn't be the first thing going through his mind, but you've got to think with Gwetzley running in 4th at the moment, he did have a pretty big gap to Pumpkin behind. It was about 7 seconds. I'm not sure why it's come down by that much. But it might have been possible for him to just extend that little lap longer, pump on some brakes, and hold Corvid up as much as possible. While Corvid was still out there on the track, Kraft came in for the undercut. If Gwetzley can take a few seconds out of Corvid, that gives Kraft track position, which is so important in this league. Definitely worth it. The team game, the Virgin drivers might have to coordinate a little bit more in future weeks. Pumpkin now really close behind Gwetzley. He's had a great second stint, or Gwetzley's had a poor one. Difficult to tell, really. But Gorlomi looking to be the first Trulli contracted driver to take a Trulli podium. Gwetzley was in that car last week, did finish 3rd, but won't this week. He's in the Virgin car, and he's a good chunk of time behind. Vinci is close behind Matimar, who did end up making that overtake stick. He is through into 7th position. Juan has dropped off, but it isn't really in any danger from the likes of Trixie. Our battle still Vinci versus Matty. Kraft has made back a little bit of time on Corvid, but as he comes up to the end here, it's been a pretty nice gap. It looked uneasy in the opening laps, but he took that lead back, and he never looked back. Corvid crosses the line to win the Punta del Este ePrix. A brilliant win for him, a first win for him, and a first win for Andretti and any non-Virgin team. Kraft takes second place, Virgin still on the podium, and the man who will be absolutely delighted come the checkered flag, which he weaves his way towards, is Gorlomi on the podium for the Trulli team. Their charge to second in the Constructors continues. Wetzley comes home in fourth place. He couldn't get the better of his teammate from last week. Pumpkin in the Trulli car makes a very solid 3-5 finish, and on his Formula E debut, the last-minute reserve for the Renault Edams team, it's Nomskar who finishes in 6th position. Matty will come home in 7th, ahead of Vinci in 8th, who ran up in 5th for a large chunk of the race and looked really good, but couldn't make that high position last. Juan will come home in 9th place, and then across the line in the final few seconds of the countdown, bringing home still a valuable point for the Mahindra team, for his Mahindra team. It's Trixie. There are your final results. Corvid, as is typical with this league so far this season, took the fastest lap of the race as well. A really, really good shift from him and the Andretti team. And despite missing out on Mart today and having Goose, our first retirement of the day, he will still be pleased with a big points haul. And I believe he does take the championship lead with that. I think he scores 30 plus points, which is more than enough to take that championship lead off I Stole These Words, and that should really revitalise a close fight up at the top 2 positions for the remainder of the season. But it's round 3, early days. No, I'll ask you for your rundown on that.
Yeah, it was certainly a really great race from Corey once again. Kraft just didn't have the answer today. Didn't go on me, also a very solid race from him, I forgot to say that. And once again, Let's in Pumpkin seems to have been quite close today once again. And in the Noms from, I think, from the back, basically up to P6, I think he just got a lot more comfortable with the car during the race, so they got up quite a few positions as a result. And yeah, I guess that's what I can say. Wasn't really an easy track. A lot of chicanes. I think it was quite easy to lose the momentum, and some of the turns was also easy to just crash into the wall by yourself, which could really just cost you quite a lot of time, which we saw happening to a few drivers. And so yeah, really being able to be consistent, making no big mistakes was really crucial for this race. Also, really hard to overtake, it seemed as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'd agree with all of that. Punta del Este, unfortunately, is just one of those tracks, the really tight chicanes and the annoying little bits of runoff that mean that if you get the corner wrong, if you try go side by side through there, you can lose a lot of time. And I think that's really what you could put the field spread down to as well. If you went side by side with the driver, even for a few laps, you're losing a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds each time you're going through the lap, and that can cost you. And that's why we couldn't see drivers catch up as much to those ahead. We had some great battles. Some drivers, unfortunately, didn't like how far it went with that. Next week we go to Buenos Aires for the next ePrix, which should be a really interesting one. That's a track that's quite different in nature, long straights, high-speed corners with a couple of hairpins, but not similar in the sense of having lots of those little pockets of runoff that slow drivers down. We will brilliantly go to our race winner and our new championship leader, Corvid, a masterclass. He kept Kraft at arm's length. How did that one feel?
Yeah, it felt alright. There's not too much to really say. The pace was good. I really picked it up on the second stint as well. Yeah, I just feel like it should have been faster than that, but we'll take what we can get, and the points are going to be very valuable later on for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, sad to see your Andretti teammate not be able to make it today and Goose crash out early on. But still, great points for you and the Andretti team. Do you think that'll be the incentive to take that title charge to Este now that you have a couple points over him in the Drivers' Championship?
Well, we'll see how it goes. I feel like the first few races were always going to be a little more leaning towards the Virgin, but I feel like as we get into more of the more open tracks, some of the more wider tracks, we can start to really push them.
Brilliant to hear. And any news if we'll see Andres make his return in future weeks?
Oh, undecided as of yet. We'll have to see how that goes with him. I have full hope that he can pull through and start start grabbing some more points for us, of course.
Good to hear. Thank you, mate. We'll go to Kraft next. Kraft, you looked really close at the beginning. You took the lead on lap 1 and then just relinquished it, and we're always that sort of second or two off, but then it sort of fell to pieces a little bit in the second stint. Run me through that one.
Yeah, I think I just kind of ran out of pace at that second stint. I just kind of stopped caring. I was like fighting Corbin on my screen. I don't know if that was like a lag thing, but then I just made a couple of mistakes. Corbin was 3 seconds ahead of me, and then I was just like, okay, P2, whatever, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Consolidating the position. Was it tempting at all to go for a late pit stop on the softs and try and take the fastest lap off him?
I was thinking of it. I was actually thinking of it, like in the race, but then I was like, no, I don't think I can catch back up to P2. I think they're P3 and P4 people are gonna catch up to me.
I think you would have been projected to finish 6th place in the end, so
Yeah,
probably not the
yeah.
great strategy call there. But yeah, good to hear, and hopefully Isto back next week, although Guetzel did an amazing job. So still looking good for Virgin Racing?
Yeah, of course, we're going for the championship.
Great to hear. Thank you, mate. And finally, unless Gorlomi wants to give an interview, but I know he said no last week. So if he does, just put it in the driver radio chat. But we'll go to Guetzel. Your first race for the Virgin team. You've hopped around a little bit, but it's another top 4 finish for you. Really solid one there. Run us through that.
Yeah, it was really good. I expected more. I thought I could get a P3 after I knew Isto would be missing, but yeah, Gorlomi was just faster today and faster in the race, faster in in qualifying as well. And I had a great start going up from P6 to P4 pretty fast in only 2 laps. Then got lucky with Vinci crashing hard behind me. He was very close one time, and yeah, I just couldn't show the pace to beat Gorlomi, so that's why he's on the podium now.
Yeah, fair enough. Solid drive nonetheless.
Thank you.
Okay, finally we'll go to Pumpkin. P5 for you in the Trillited car. Really, really great race for the team, actually. 3rd and 5th. Sign of things to come?
Oh, wait, you think I did a great race, by the way?
Yeah?
I felt like that went shit, but thank you.
Well, you're 10 seconds ahead of the gaggle behind you. You always kept the pace pretty well. I mean, go on, describe the race from your perspective then.
Alright, so the start was like, alright, I guess, and then there was a bit of lag between me, Guetzel, and Vinci the entire race, basically, because when you were commentating and stuff, I was seeing different things, you know? And I got murdered by Vinci probably 5 times.
Wow.
So that was fun.
But you pulled through ahead of him anyways.
Yeah, I somehow got him back. I think he made a huge mistake in before the first pit stop.
Right.
So yeah, that's it really.
Well done. Good points.
Thank you.
That's all we have for today. We'll be back next week in Buenos Aires. Different track, different complexion, but very much a championship fight on our hands. That's all until then, but we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.